Here's how to learn Italian if you're too busy like me.
O molto pigro come me.
Either way, you struggle to dedicate enough time to learning Italian. Now, I don't want to make false promises or be unrealistic. Learning Italian does take a lot of time and effort, but you can speed things up by cheating a little bit.
Va bene barare se serve ad imparare l'italiano. Avete il nostro pieno permesso.
So in this video, I'll share 7 shortcuts to learning Italian. Some might go against what you think that you probably should do to be learning Italian, and this means you can go a little bit easier on yourself and still learn Italian in less time.
A proposito di pigrizia, io adesso vado. Ciao.
Ciao. The first shortcut is to focus on similar words. So in Italian and English, there are loads of words that are really similar. For example, station is stazione, train is treno. And it's actually estimated that around 60% of English words have Latin roots. And a lot of those came from French after the Norman invasion, and others came after the Renaissance, so particularly words related to art, science, and culture. There are also some little rules that you can use. So English words that end in shun tend to end in zione in Italian. For example, we've got station, stazione, and information, informazione. Ik becomes ico. Traffic is traffico. Fantastic is fantastico. T becomes ta. So we've got identity, as in identity card, becomes identità, and quality becomes qualità. There are many more similar words like passport, which becomes passaporto, and museum, which is museo. There are actually a lot of words that are exactly the same in Italian as well. So we have computer, taxi, hotel, and many more. Just remember to pronounce them the Italian way by really enunciating the vowels.
Ricordati di pronunciare bene le vocali in italiano, quindi computer, taxi, hotel, e in italiano l'H non si sente, quindi hotel, hotel, non hotel.
You can learn more about words that are similar in Italian and English by looking for cognates. That's the official linguistic name for them. You can find lots of lists online. But also it's just nice to keep your eyes and ears open every time you notice one. Try to pay attention to it, and that will help you remember it. The next shortcut is to skip nearly everything. So you have our full permission to skip most of the things in your textbook. And I know this sounds quite radical, but I remember when I was learning Italian, I would spend loads of time on lists of words that weren't actually that useful to me. So for example, in the chapter on jobs, I'd end up memorizing words like idraulico, plumber, or ingegnere, engineer, that I've never really used in conversation. Or the where are you from chapter, where I was trying to memorize all of the different nationalities. So I ended up learning a lot of random stuff that wasn't actually that useful, but I still didn't know how to make small talk or order a coffee or a pizza, which was what I really wanted to do. It's much more effective to focus on the words that you know that you'll say a lot. So maybe just start by learning your job and your nationality, and then the ones of the people around you that you tend to talk about, so maybe close family members and friends. For example, if you or someone close to you is an accountant, you can look up how to say that in a dictionary, like on wordreference.com, and you can also hear the pronunciation.
Contabile. Contabile.
For extra points, imagine some sentences that you might say a lot with this word, and you can use an AI tool, for example, like ChatGPT, and ask it to generate sentences for you. So you might want to know how to say, I was an accountant for 40 years, or I was an accountant and now I'm retired. By personalizing your learning in this way, you can avoid wasting time on stuff that's not actually that useful to you and focus on the things that you'll need to start speaking earlier in Italian. Next, learn shortcut words. So instead of stressing about learning really long phrases or all of the little details or all of the possible ways that you can say something, sometimes in Italian it's possible to learn just one word that can do a lot of things and help you sound really native. For example, it's not always easy to know when to say buongiorno or buonasera. Instead, you can use the word salve. It's one of those words that Italians use all of the time, and you don't need to worry about what time of day it is.
Salve. Salve.
When you're leaving, Italians often wish you something. So they might wish you buona giornata, have a nice day, or buon weekend, have a nice weekend. And sometimes in the moment it can be quite difficult to know how to reply. But there's one word that can help, there's one word you can use all of the time, which is altrettanto, meaning you too. And it works in the formal and also the informal.
Grazie, altrettanto. Grazie, altrettanto. Grazie, altrettanto.
Where can you find more words and expressions like this? So we want to help you take the most direct route to being able to communicate in Italian and also learn those little words and expressions that Italians use every day. For this reason, you'll find lots of words and tips like this in our online Italian school. To find out more, click the link in the description. Next, be sloppy. And what I mean by this is that a lot of people really hold themselves back by trying to be perfect. So let's imagine that you're talking about where you live and then you start wondering, should I say vivo or should I say abito? And then you kind of start to lose confidence because you don't want to make a mistake. My advice for this is don't worry about it. Just say what you feel is probably, might work in the moment. Just get it out and try to communicate. When you're speaking Italian, stressing about those little details is way too much for your brain to handle right in that moment. And if you think about it, the main goal is to communicate with the person in front of you. So if you get it out and they understand, you communicated and it worked.
A proposito, vivo ed abito sono intercambiabili. Puoi usarli tutti e due in questa situazione.
Another example is in English, if I'm late, I might say something like, sorry, I got caught in traffic. Don't get stuck trying to translate expressions like this word for word. Instead, just use the words that you have to get your meaning across. So you could say, scusa. So you could say, scusa, c'è molto traffico. Scusa, c'è molto traffico. Sorry, there's a lot of traffic. The same is true when you're reading and listening to Italian. So don't try to translate every single little word that you don't know and make it really long and hard work, essentially. Instead, just try to understand the gist of what you're listening to or what you're reading and keep going. It feels like cheating, but it's not. So being sloppy like this and just focusing on trying to communicate and understand will give you lots more opportunities to speak and be exposed to lots of Italian, which will actually help you learn faster. And this doesn't mean ignoring the details. As you learn and get better, you can gradually start to focus on more advanced details then, when it feels easier. Next, don't stress over long explanations. So you know how sometimes you're learning Italian and then, hold on, I think I need to read this one so I don't stress over the long explanation. There are things like the definite article lo precedes masculine singular nouns when the onset contains an impure sound, which may be defined as consonant clusters such as ST or PS, voiced and unvoiced affricates.
Are you okay?
Like
Are you okay?
Z and ts, and approximates such as y and the post-alveolar palatal nasal ny.
We have to go bye.
These kinds of explanations are just not useful for me when I'm speaking. I'm not going to remember them, it's just not going to happen. So instead, what I try to do is learn the simplest version, maybe even just a part of a rule, and then try and hold it really loosely in my head so that I can actually remember it when I'm speaking. For example, in Italian, we use lo with masculine words that start with a Z or a Z. For example, the sugar is lo zucchero. Lo zucchero. You can use ChatGPT to give you a few short, simple, common examples and then focus on the ones that you think you'll use most often. When I asked for other common expressions like lo zucchero, which use lo and start with z, I got lo zio and lo zaino. Then once you're used to these, it becomes much easier to add on more details little by little. For example, in Italian, we also use lo for masculine words which start with st, like lo studente. Then I can just think, it's like words that start with z. I know this rule. And you can also look for a few common examples of those words as well, which will help you to get a feel for it. I hope you're finding these tips useful. If you'd like to get more videos with tips on how to learn Italian like this, and also free mini Italian lessons, you can subscribe to this channel and ring the bell. This way you'll get notified when we release new episodes. The next shortcut is don't study. So lots of students spend most of their time when they're learning Italian trying to memorize grammar rules or memorize long lists of words. But it's quite hard to know how much this actually helps, if at all, you having a conversation in Italian. When you have limited time, it's even more important to spend most of it practicing, not looking at abstract lists and tables. So this means listening and reading a lot in Italian so that your brain can absorb those natural and common language structures. It's also more enjoyable and more motivating. If you're a beginner, you can do this with stories and dialogues adapted to your level. And if you're not sure where to start, you can take a look at our beginners playlist on this YouTube channel, or also listen to the Joy of Languages podcast. You'll find the links in the description. Reading and listening also really help a lot with speaking. So the more that you read or hear words and expressions and grammar structures being used in real communication, the more you'll find them just kind of there floating around in your head and ready to be used when you need to use them in conversation. Finally, don't persevere. At least not in the short term. So if you imagine learning a language as being a little bit like running, you decide to start running and the first time you go out, you put on your trainers and you try to do 5K in under 30 minutes, you'll probably traumatize yourself, or I would, so much that you never ever want to go running again. So particularly if you're struggling to find the time to learn Italian, maybe you're busy and stressed, or you don't feel like studying Italian that much, it's really important to try and build momentum. So start slowly with little chunks that you can break up. So maybe you could do 10 minutes here and there throughout your day. If you're in this situation, I recommend keeping your sessions really short so you can break them up maybe into 10 or 15 minute sessions and slot them in throughout your day. To do this, you can also make use of your dead time. So let's say that you're waiting in line for something, or you're waiting for someone to arrive. You can listen to something or read something in Italian, maybe review some vocabulary. And podcasts, particularly if you are busy, being able to listen to things as you're doing other stuff is a really, really good way to learn Italian. So you can get some headphones, you can listen to podcasts while you're cleaning the toilet, or walking the dog, and that's a really good way. Listening is amazing to help you learn and to make progress. So even though you're busy, you're not dedicating that time sitting at your desk, you can make loads of progress just listening to Italian as you go about your day. You can also do this with Italian music, which is a bit more relaxing, and if you listen to the same songs over and over again, your brain will start to absorb those words and expressions. The main thing is to not put too much pressure on yourself. So do what you can, do what's most useful, and do what you enjoy little and often. And over time, your Italian will get better and better. So what about you? Which tip did you find the most useful? Or if you've already tried some, how did it go? And do you have some advice to share with the other learners? Leave us a comment. Ciao! Ma viene un video di mezz'ora? No, questo sarà un po' tosta. Computer! C'è sempre...
Non fa niente barare.
Ciao, saluto tutti quelli che mi conoscono